Assalamu alaikum guys. I hope we are a shared life. We are talking about project review layout. To start our live creator economy platform layout trading is live join share 2 crore layout reward and gate currently holding layout. Friends competition join right now shares and 2 crore layout reward price goes and campaign period August second, 2025 at 12 p.m. and August 90th and 2025 12 p.m. ETC activities race and activity 100 players and trading shared and 116 crore prizes. And during the event, booths have been list and 5,000 players and trading and can share the with 16 crore players and that reward best sport and trading and bullion ranking. Ranking, rewards, and minimum layers, ratings, and bullion process 1, 16 layers, and 12 crore, 12, 13 layer, and 13,000 layers, 9 crore, 16 layer, and 4 crore for an equal shares, and 3 lakhs 20,000 layers, and 5 crore, only 5 and legs, and other shares, 9 layers. With on spot at various volumes contributions to styles. Trade now pure utility activities exclusive with which share extra from 4 lakhs. Use yours and during this event and registered as spot spring Williams and futures tradings and bullion 110,000 received 6,000 layers and the level force is for color layer. New user registered and features of needs activity individual. Further leaves and bonuses for most appearing potencies, most increasing and the trade events and the July 2010 and Bitcoin fast started trading and the Bitcoin price 0.00008 at to $0.08 at that time. The however saw in the Nakamoto the general inventions and the Bitcoins as well as another authors to the and fast information instructions and that the instructions and handed the networks alerted the kinds and computations and the givens and listens who later becomes an lay at the bitcoins and founders over the years and number of the people and contribute improving competency software that most and that adding the new features. The bitcoins could specifications GitHub and the more than 715 and contributors with some and then with much J Bender and that are features and location and present John and publication others. Bitcoin's most unique advantage comes from the fact that we use that the cryptocurrencies and to like and the million appeared on the applications it has managed in the global community and keep that birth and internet information distributions million internship and the who creators most and cryptocurrencies are like and that cryptocurrencies for most and that to that information and that immigrants of the cryptocurrencies and credit factuals and basis and subscription developments of the thousands of projects that the cryptocurrencies and more 2 trillion persons and to like capabilities and that ecosystems and from most big interrelations and such as the bankless and services companies that are net paintings of natures and to like and integrating a market over that they decides and that even after Bitcoin lost and restriction to maintain and to like at largest and potential and market capitalized and that surface substitute and that mark 2021 and for most incapacities and like and that 21 cent price as a 2000 863.10 on April 14, 2021. This is the owning large and fast growing transaction interested and applications for light and pro applications for to provide users and that ownings and to like them for transactions, payment service and games and more. Surprise and the delight at 2001 crores coins and new credit during the process and known as the mining specifications and across the network that get picked up miners and that package for most operating cryptocurrencies and the like and then they get picked up by the miners and packaged into the blocks and for most cryptocurrencies and they did conflicts and that complications and the conspications and minus and receive and rewards from most and implications like questions and that meanings form in the like fictions and as 2020 as blocks and reward confines and bitcoin and 6.25% and bitcoins and to light and for most and cryptocurrencies in the ecomissions for most and the currencies minus and the like between the founders and the prefers available for public. However, during the first few years, BTC extensions and complications between miners and already application participant and announcement for most in competencies and like and then for most competencies and to like and then application sacrifice amount and the competencies and like to competencies and announcement and significant constant regulations and for most incompetencies for Bitcoin and deliberation millions and that light can be very falsification and for minor defending and formulations and the Bitcoins while this fight applications and the complete the resources how to long send application while market cap Alexandras for most and Bitcoins and that understands and to like and understood and that brokers approach it to once and for most applications and like and guidance Bitcoins at 2020 having which roughly sent to 2,99,200 in Bitcoin's price today. Bitcoin's success and with other algorithms and with this belongs as H2 family has seen an algorithm who is also use Bitcoin cash and the cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is the first decline and fate digital currencies and for important functions and that used of that application store of value and the like and forever and for most applications and for most ownerships and the routless physical asset and as the unit of the account however and as two questions verification and divided the my many capitals and announcement believed from most and potencies and like and that also transplications and announcement and that by the many smaller units. The smallest unit did of bitcoins and 0.00001 BTCs and the light short for NVS James creators and Bitcoin price in now one Satoshi ambitions are routless and the 0.00004 the cryptos complications and to like and then the radius and the most evidence and that likes and that confidence and the store of the values interested and for like standard method and buy a holds and that for most applications and then the routless status and it is gold. The hard flex and the trust protocols and the yes market entered blockings and that Cryptocurrency that for replication update and for most cryptocurrency access and coming and trading system build hard works and for most cryptocurrency and like that and then that cryptocurrency is for registration transportation and that at users believe hard forks and code the transportation users and BT to users sees and that hard forks protocols update and the backward complications and that not and to light and cryptocurrencies from most and cryptocurrency and like that the applications advantages for transportations from blockchain the word blockchains and that applications and for most in that like and others are never bitcoins or applications the hot a short frog is since bitcoin protocols when in the previously and for most potencies and like the ecosystems and that the kind only in the imageability so for most new rules. The simple automation competencies are most standard competencies and like and following the between frog and the result in Ethereum classic. And more migration, what is Trapato? Trapato. Trapato should present together be a 300, 341, 342 and improve the and then applications, application, blog and survival and the features. The introduction and for most competencies and like for most and competency adjustment and implications, introductions and new for most applications and like that justifications and their scope and fees for most apparent tenses and like analysis thus application from most object version and locations and symbols are line significant and that once an algorithms for most and potencies introductions and to like and for most insignificant and aspiration look like simple signal significant and once are allowed and that hold and foremost and notice victim impact and that photos could become keys and investigations and equalings networks and foremost and like for more implications and ecosystem delegation shows and that in the most applications and that the ecosystemications and like the cryptocurrencies and that the significant. What is the Lightning network? The lightness options for most applications and to light and cryptocurrencies in the Infinix and that legacies and for most operating cryptocurrencies from most transplications and to light and inspections and the descriptions and the blended blockings. Who is the largest replication bitcoins? And for most cryptocurrencies and that in ecosystems and that life and for most application business and many bitcoin buses and profits and related applications within waiting to form. Yeah, and the most competencies are like for most applications and that light and anyone anywhere who can implement search and bring the competencies and that eliminations and for competencies and that the communications and for most in like political sense and the applications and the broken and the native and segment and that appears most in competencies like and the implications and that most Biking that bitcoins and the 2020s and the bitcoin price to 4 to 5 and the bitcoins of August 3 to 5 and Martians and to light hypothesis and most applications and that most forward and Teslas. The ecosystems and by has by most and applications and the light hypothesis and most ecosystem allocations and that light for most applications and that the minimum. And that these improvements in this ability essentials and everybody users and the long terms and the including for most applications and to like and then application headings and globals and development the community workings and works and speed security team the Etrans was the first performed by Batika Bhutan in 2013 when he just 90 years old. The project was officially launched in 2015 and the group of co-founders including the Batika Bhutan and Charles Hawkins and the Gavins Otet today's Etrans and developments communities and develops and from the around and the work and the founders profits and the coding development but does not control the network then listed changes networks and communities progress and decisions and votings for the developments community significantly marking workings and development specifications of the protocols and the key developments and grounds for including items and the independent streams and contributions development systems tools and to like and declines and approaches and developments hills and the two sounds and much control over the network futures. ऐसे मोबाइल नहीं मिली है राइसा राइसा ऐसे मिल रही राइसा मोबाइल नहीं मिली है कुछ नहीं मिली है we are talking BTC BTC राइसा मोनी दीदी यार मोबाइल नहीं दी क्या the Ethereum price is now Ethereum price is now 1,16,937.73 market cap 2.32 trillion volume on 24 hours and 14 147.1 billion and FTBs 2.545 trillion volume market cap 6.28%. Gross supply 19.89 billion meters. শাড়ির বয়ফ্রেন্ড একসাথে next supply Allah to 21 million BTC correction supply and 189 million BTCs. About that, the Bitcoin decline confidence is cut 2008 white paper by a person's group of people and they using the network. Nakamoto is launched and soon after in January 2009 Bitcoin's peer-to-peer currencies and meaning that transactions happen directly and between equals independent network and the participants without the immediately then the immediate facility and Bitcoin's created according Nakamoto was allows online payments and to like references. Turgas. Foreign guests going to through and financial instruments and to light references and some approaches and decline electronic currencies and reducings for most separate references and but the distributions for most if increasing and to like and the distributions for most in to like and that the Bitcoin founders who are the founders of Bitcoin the order than and rewards from Most any implications like questions and that meanings form in the like fictions and as 2020 as blocks and reward confines and Bitcoin and 6.25% and Bitcoins and to light and for most and cryptocurrencies in the emissions for most and the currencies minus and the light between the founders and the first available for public. However, during the first few years, BTC extensions and complications between miners and already application participant and announcement for most in competencies and like and then for most competencies and to like and the application second amount and the competencies and like to competencies and announcement and significant constant regulations and for most in competencies for Bitcoin and deliberation millions and that light. Can be very falsification and for minor defending and formulations and the bitcoins while this fight applications and the complete the resources. How to long term application while market cap Alexandras for most and bitcoins and that understands and to like and understood and that brokers approach it to once and for most applications and like and guidance bitcoins at 2020 having which roughly and 2,99,200 in bitcoins price today. Bitcoins software and with other algorithms and with this belongs as H2 family has seen an algorithm who is also use Bitcoin cash and the cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is the first decline and fate digital currencies and for important functions and that used of that application store of value and the like and forever and for most applications and for most ownerships and the routless physical asset and as the unit of the account however and as two questions verification and divided the my many carbotos and announcement believed from most and carbotenses and like and that also transportation announcement and that by the many smaller units. The smallest unit did of bitcoins and 0.0000001 BTCs and the light short for NVS James creators and Bitcoin price in now one Satoshi ambitions are routless and the 0.00004 the carbotos complications and to like and then the radius and the most evidence and that likes and that carbonates and the store of the values interested and for like standard method and by a holds and that for most applications and then the roughly status and it as gold. The hard flex and that as protocols and that yes market enter blockings and that capitals there for the application update and for most capitals access and coming and trading system build hard works and for most capitals and like that and then that capitals is for registration transportation and that at users believe hard frogs and code the transportations users and BT to users sees and that hard frogs protocols update and the backward complications and that not and to light and capitals from most and capitals and like that the applications advantages for transportations from blockchain, the word blockchains and most in deadlines and others are never bitcoins or application the hot a short frog is since bitcoin protocols when in the previously and for most preferences and like the ecosystems and that the kind only in the imageability so for most new rules. The simple automation competencies are most standard competencies and like and following the between from and the result in Ethereum Classic. And more migration, what is Trapato? Trapato. Trapato should present together BF 300, 341, 342 and improve the and then applications, application, blog and survival and the features. The introduction and for most competencies and light for most and competency adjustment and implications, introductions and new for most applications and like that justifications and their scope and fees for most apparent report tenses and like analysis thus application from most object version and locations and symbols are line significant and that once an algorithms for most and hypotheses introductions and to like and for most insignificant and aspiration look like symbols significant and once are allowed and that hold and for most and notice victim impact and that photos could become keys and investigations and equalings networks and for most and like for more implications and ecosystem delegation shows and that in the most applications and that the ecosystemications and like the cryptocurrencies and that the significant. What is the Latin network? The lightiness options for most applications and to light and cryptocurrencies in the engineers and that legacies and for most appearing cryptocurrencies from most transplications and to light and restrictions and the descriptions and the blinded blockings. Who is the largest replication bitcoins? And for most cryptocurrencies and that in ecosystems and that life and for most application business and many bitcoin buses and profits and related applications within waiting to form. Yeah, and the most hypotheses are like for most applications and that light and anyone anywhere who can implement search and bring the hypothesis and that eliminations and for hypothesis and that the communications and for most in like political sense and that applications and the broken and the native and segment and that appears most in hypothesis like and the implications and that most biking that bitcoins and the 2020s and the bitcoin 5 to 4 to 4 to 5 and the bitcoins of August 3 to 5 and Martians and to light carbonizes and most applications and that most forward and Teslas. The ecosystems and by has by most and applications and the light cryptocurrencies and most ecosystem allocations and that light for most and applications and that the minimum. And that these improvements in this ability essentials and everybody users and the long teams and the including for most applications and to like and that application headings and globals and development the community workings and works and speak security team The Etrans was the first proposed by Batika Bhutan in 2013 when he just 90 years old. The project was officially launched in 2015 and the group of co-founders including the Batikal Bhutan and Charles Hawkins and the Gavins Odet today's Etrans and developments communities and develops and from the around and the world and the founders profits and the coding development but does not control the network then listed changes networks and communities progress and decisions and proteins for the development community significantly marking workings and development specifications of the protocols and the key developments and grounds for including items and the independent streams and contributions development systems tools and tool like and declines and efforts and developments hills and the two sounds and much control over the network futures. ऐसे मोबाइल नहीं मिली है राइसा राइसा ऐसे मन रे राइसा मोबाइल नहीं मिली है तू तो नहीं मिली है we are talk to BTC BTC রাইসা মনি দিদির মোবাইল নিয়ে দিগান the Ethereum price is now Ethereum price is now 1,16,937.73 market cap 2.32 trillion and handed the networks alerted the currency reputations and the givens Anderson, who later becomes an lay at the bitcoins and founders over the years and number of the people and contribute improving capabilities software that most and that adding the new features. The bitcoins could specifications GitHub and the more than 715 and contributions with some and then with much J vendor and that are features and location and present John and clarifications others. Bitcoin's most unique advantage comes from the fact that we use that the cryptocurrencies and to like and the million appeared on the applications it has managed that birth and indirect information distributions million internship and the who creators most and cryptocurrencies are like to stand that to that information and that immigrants of the cryptocurrencies and created factuals and basis and subscription developments of the thousands of projects that the cryptocurrencies and more 2 trillion persons and to like cryptocurrencies and the ecosystems and from most big intelligence and the such as the bankless and services companies that are net paintings of natures and to like and integrating a market over that decides and that even after Bitcoin lost and restriction to maintain and to like at largest and potential and market capitalized and that surface substitute and that mark 2021 and for most incompetencies and like and that 21 75 as 2000 863.10